Buenos dias. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Lots of excitements today. Good morning, everyone. Uh, Thank you so much for joining us this morning. A very important day, and I'll have to stop every once in a while for every 2 minutes, in fact. Um, but I'm very grateful that you all here. My name is Paulina López, and I am the executive director of the Duwamish River Cleanup Coalition. I'm very thankful to welcome our Madam Mayor this morning and all the city representatives, as well as my community members, representatives. It takes a village to make things happen, and I'm very, very grateful for all the discussions and announcements that we're having today. I'm also standing here in the Duwamish territories, and I want to acknowledge that and welcome you all, as it is important that we remembered and acknowledge every day. It has been a very tough 2 months. It has been a very tough 2 years. It has been a very tough forever for this community. And this is why the importance of celebrating today what we're about to hear, but also to remind that even though we live in a very prosperous city, there are communities like the Duwamish Valley that still remain in the back. And hopefully, with all this energy that we have and the work that we've been doing, it's going to come to an end one day. We still have some very big difference in life expectancy as other neighborhoods in Seattle. And it is important that we remember that our children here in South Park still have the highest asthma rates as in any other neighborhood in Seattle. That we have the highest per capita number of youth in this area, a majority youth of color. And this is all why it's so important that we focus the attention on those who traditionally has been disinvested and traditionally have been impacted by environmental injustices. So I just wanted to make sure that you know a little bit of the history, setting the ground, and why is it the work that we do. Our organization has been working for the past 20 years tirelessly. Once we started with the cleanup of the river, 20 years later, we're still asking for the same. Why is it that in 2021, when everybody's talking about environmental justice and equity, we still have to advocate for a cleanup, full cleanup of a river, of a Superfund site where majority people of color live? So I wanted to mention that, and I wanted to remind you that all the things are driven by actions, and those actions need investments. So it is a very important day for us as we think of the people who are being left behind, as we think about our youth, and as we think about the places that are going to make a difference for our community to thrive. I want to welcome Madam Mayor for the maybe 40th time to come to this neighborhood. You have been committed, and I want to publicly acknowledge that the difference that you've made in this community, in our youth. Our youth respects you, and our youth knows all the work that you've been doing, because our youth are here present, and we're going to hear from them today. But it's the reality that we see it. So I want to welcome and thank you for everything you have done, and to remind everyone that only walking the talk is the things that we accomplish things. Acknowledging that, I'm going to give it out to you and welcome you one more time to South Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Paulina. Thank you, community members are here. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to South Park. I'm so honored to be here today. When I was sworn in as mayor, one of my places I sworn in was South Park. And as Paulina says, I've been back here many a time. And what's happening here today, and many of the things we're announcing, are a direct result of community involvement. It's a direct result of youth knowing that they can advocate for things and can make differences and make changes. As Paulina says, this neighborhood has been left behind too many times in too many ways. For years, it struggled with no bridge and no access. And then we lost another bridge, and the impacts to this community of traffic going through. They're on what could be a beautiful restored river, but have had to fight day in, day out to get the restoration we need. When we published the Duwamish Valley Action Plan, we made a commitment to following through with community to make sure that the community's priorities and solutions would be the ones we could follow. I'm going to wait for the jet to pass. Like during the pandemic, when we provided technical assistance and protective supplies to gears to women and BIPOC-owned small businesses, we did that because we heard from community how they needed to be safe to keep their businesses open. When we acquired new parcels of land to develop affordable housing, which we announced here a few weeks ago, because we know that as gentrification and displacement happens, this community that struggled so long is at risk for that. So we made sure that we're purchasing affordable housing, and it will be paired with my executive order that is an anti-displacement order that gives people in the community the first shot at staying in the community. Like the $3 million in transportation-related projects to address the impacts of the West Seattle Bridge. It didn't end those impacts, but we had to recognize the impacts the closure of that bridge had on this community, which was already so fragile in so many ways. To the Georgetown Flume off-leash area. From the first time I walked in as mayor, I heard more and more that people needed a place to take their dogs, and now we have it. And last week, Seattle Parks and Recreation acquired property. This lot over here is owned by the city now, and we will be making this park larger. I want to thank Jesus for your leadership in the Parks Department, everything in your workers through the years. We know this is one of the few places this community can access this river. And we've improved this place, and now we'll make even better, greener access. But we have to do more. And that's why I'm announcing that in my budget next week, I will be investing approximately $8.5 million new investments in youth, community, and economic development in accordance with the Duwamish Valley Action Plan. And I've been saying since I became mayor that if you get out in communities and listen to communities, you will get the solution to what community needs and how we build a vibrant city for the future. So the funding that we'll have in the budget will do the things that we've heard from community, like expanding the Duwamish Valley Youth Corps. That Youth Corps is amazing. Carmen, thank you for your work. You'll hear from their work. Go off script for a minute. Come on in, don't be shy. One of the great things when we were doing police search, we had a youth council do part of the interviews of the police candidates. And I was watching one of the roundtables going, and one of the youth who stood up said, well, we can ask whatever questions we want because we get asked the questions to the mayor too. We hold her accountable. And I love that moment because that youth learned that here in this community, working with things like the Duwamish Valley Youth Corps. We're going to invest in that kind of community engagement, and we're going to fund the development of a rehabilitation of really important community spaces. This part of Seattle has been neglected too long, and you see behind me a range of people from city offices who touch this community every day, and they're just as committed as I am to making sure that we make a difference for our community. We'll establish resilience hubs that prove clean air, cooling centers, and operate renewable energy. We know the impacts of climate change are real. They disproportionately impact communities of color, and they disproportionately impact those communities already impacted by environmental injustice. So we're going to work to reverse that. We'll improve the waterfront access, like I said, so that there can be access to this river, and we will continue to work with community in their push to clean up the Duwamish. Because I work for Paulina. We plan to fund incentives for heavy-duty vehicle operators to convert to electric drayage and school buses and other fleets so that we reduce the impacts of the diesel-operated machinery. I'm also going to propose an increase for small industrial businesses in South Park and Georgetown, with technical assistance, marketing support, and financial advice to address the current impacts that we know have had on the businesses in these communities. I'm really excited for the future of the Duwamish Valley. What we're doing today stands on the shoulders of hard work over many years, but always community driven with community voice. I look forward to working with everybody to get this through and then to look at the next chapter on how we can continue to do more. You're very excited that you will be able to hear from one of our Youth Corps members who's fantastic.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelcey Valdez Ramirez. I am a resident from South Park since I was 10 years old. Thank you, Mayor Durkan, for being here today in a park that is still being constructed after 10 years. This is my experience with the Duwamish Valley Youth Corps. I started the Duwamish Valley Youth Corps when I was 13 years old. Now I'm currently going to turn 20 in November. This experience has taught me a lot in my life. When I was younger, I didn't do good in school. I got fired once from the Duwamish Valley Youth Corps, but thank you to Carmen Martinez for giving me a second chance. I learned how to do the things correctly. I brought the Lieutenant Governor to speak with the youth. I learned how to do many different resources. I learned so many experience from this second opportunity from Carmen and Paulina. I will never forget that. Because of them, I am the person who I am now. I have been in so many different programs. I am an intern with the Duwamish Valley Youth Course with Zero Waste Washington, and thanks to an internship that I had during the summer last year, I now have a position with Via Comunitaria as well. It is important to invest in our youth because, like I said, second opportunities are also good for them as well, because if they don't know the right path the first time, they have to do it a second time, and maybe they'll learn how to do the right things, be better in school, be better as a person themselves, because we never know what they're going through in their lives. But it's also important to give them that second opportunity because we don't know what they have inside them, so we have to pressure them to get their inner selves outside. And I want to say thank you to Mayor Durkan for being here today. Here's a gift for you.
Thank you. My next job. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right. I don't know if you heard that with the jet, but Paulina says she's the next mayor. That's fantastic. And now we have, I think, Sam speaking next?
Yes.
All right, Sam, you're up.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Good morning, I'm Sam Farrazaino with Equinox Studios over on the other side of the river. They let me over here sometimes, I really appreciate it. The partnerships that are possible here are incredible. So thank you for the opportunity to be here and to express how excited I am for a new chapter in our partnership with the city. Thank you, Mayor. Exciting opportunities here. I'm glad that the city is listening and that we're ready to jump in together. Each of these investments will bring together neighbors and airplanes and residents and workers and businesses and industry to collaborate on work that is important to all of us and to the entire Duwamish Valley. Georgetown has long wanted and needed more spaces to gather along with South Park. Don't get me wrong, I love it when people come to Equinox and celebrate art and community, and I love heading down to Fonda La Katrina, but I'm really excited to support John and the rest of the crew at Mini Mart City Park to realize a cultural space with youth programming, resilient green infrastructure, community gathering space, and so much more that it can be. These investments are sorely needed and greatly appreciated. We look forward to leveraging them and building lasting partnerships to create more spaces like the Georgetown Steam Plant and even affordable housing and maybe a community center where our neighbors of all ages can learn and strive and thrive in it together. So investments in greening our industries and the heavy equipment electrification, the local support for local businesses and our workforce development commitments were all highly supported recommendations from the Mayor's Advisory Council for Maritime and Industrial Strategy. So it's great to see that they're all coming together and actually happening now. Having worked on that council with other residents and businesses and industrial and maritime government stakeholders, it's really encouraging to see concrete results of cross-sector collaboration. So many of our neighbors, some of whom are here today, Andrew, Dre, Greg, have worked tirelessly for years on Gateway Park North and 8th Avenue. This funding that's coming to improve the street and the park is an essential beginning to finally connecting Georgetown to the waterfront park we all deserve, and to be able to safely access the Duwamish River, which is going to be super clean super soon. While at the same time improving the roadway and the infrastructure for businesses like Recology, who help serve all of our needs in the city. Even better is this unique opportunity for all of us, the residents, workers, businesses, the city, the Port of Seattle, and many others, to work together for a better environment, better neighborhood, and a better city. So our sleeves are rolled up, they're on the inside, rolled up, and ready to work in partnership with the city to advance this climate resilience and community resilience in Georgetown and the whole Duwamish Valley. So with that, thank you, Mayor Durkan, and I'd like to give it back to you for questions now.
That's awesome. Thanks, Sam. We'll take some Q&A, but I think that just even here demonstrates, you know, these jets fly over this community every day. This waterway is a working waterway where the Duwamish has had the environmental impacts. You've seen this community struggle against all odds, but look at behind me the resilience and strength of this community. And that's why we're here today. This is their advocacy and their vision and their dream. I'm just the mayor who's lucky enough to be able to have been here, listen to people, and be able to have government. I want to thank all of the team in city government for the work they do every day to get this done, particularly through this pandemic. You have with me Jesus, head of our Parks Department, Sam, who is head of, as you know, Seattle Department of Transportation, and Rico from OPCD. They and their teams, together with others across the city, are really thinking about how do we cohesively lift up communities, because we know we touch them in so many ways, and if we don't work to make that a positive thing, then it isn't a holistic vision like everyone behind me has been arguing for. So really excited to be here today, really great steps. Any questions for me, or more importantly, if you've got it for the community, because this is about them today.
Mayor Durkan, Lauren Donovan with Kairos 7. So we talked to locals over in Georgetown today, and their concern is that they really want to maintain the authenticity of the neighborhood, not change the landscape too much. They're worried about condos coming in, because they love the small town feel that you get there. What would you say to those people about moving forward and concerns about that?
So I think they're absolutely right, and as you heard from Sam, we've had a long-running group to really balance the maritime and authentic feels of those neighborhoods, to preserve what's great, but also to bring in what can lift up that community. And those community recommendations are really that balance. And we'll be moving forward, people, as we roll out what's happening in our maritime and industrial lands, what the agreements the communities have made. We have spent a lot of time over the last 2 years to really get that right. And so I think people will be very pleased to see you can do both. You can build a better, more resilient community with more green space, more community centers, more access to amenities, and at the same time preserve the things that make that community special.
Off topic, any comment on the impending departure of Peter Rogoff and the ongoing troubles at Sound Transit?
You know, we are in the midst, on the cusp of announcing some really fantastic things. As you know, we're opening up the new light rail station at Northgate. We'll be opening up the John Lewis Bridge. Over the coming years, we're going to be opening up more stations. And so I think the thing we need to focus on is all the great things we have done during this pandemic to make sure that as we come out of the pandemic, we're ready to go. And clean, safe, green transportation, light rail is such a big part of that.
Comment on his departure. You've called him out in the past.
I think that Peter made a decision. He wants to move forward, and I think everyone has to acknowledge this last 18 months has been so hard on anybody leading any organization, and bringing an organization of that complexity through COVID-19 and all the impacts it had is he's going to help on the transition to get the next leader in place, and I really acknowledge him for that work on that. I think that shows his commitment to getting this right. All right, everyone, enjoy, spend some time in South Park. More importantly, spend some money in South Park. There's some really great food and businesses here. Thank you.
And a reminder for you all, today that we have the Duwamish River Rally to make sure all the voices of community from 5 to 7, and I hope to see you all there advocating for what is right in this community and have a clean river.
And where's that going to be? Tell them.
South Park Plaza, and we're going to be there from 5 to 7. Thank you. Thank
all right,
you so
everyone,
much
thank
for
you.
being here.